Hello everybody, welcome back. We are gonna do a quick review of the Wings of Abundance Nanocore. Sorry I'm about like a month later than like day one. It has been kinda difficult to get my hands on the Wings of Abundance core and get a ship that can use it. I have it on the Allegiance, but I have never had a chance to just use it. And I think it shows off better on something like the Valraven. So here we see my current Valraven, have it painted orange. Kind of an interesting color scheme here. Not a whole lot of choice when it comes to color, but I do really like the design on the front, like a shield, sort of, with the wings coming off the back. You even have this slight, like, oh, oh, design. I don't know the actual name of this. It's not an olive branch, but it looks like oats. It's kind of interesting. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. How you doing today, Jinder? Anyway, so getting into the color, this is what it starts as. You'll notice here that the top is mostly white, and the bottom is mostly whatever color you can choose. So if we go into it, you'll see these glowing parts here. It's all of the sort of like things that would hold stuff in place, I guess is the way to describe that. It's like scaffolding, pretty much, that gets colored in. Let's see about changing the colors here. You can see even back here on the back, you get some really nice color changes. And this is probably one of the better parts. Hi, Riley. How you doing today? This is a really good amount of color and um, coloration to it. Can't remember the word. Opacity, not really. But really nice color you get out of that. So we're going to set that to like purple for now. Your next coloration is all of the shielding around parts. So that's pretty cool. Let's have a look at how that changes. You'll notice it retains the sort of striped color here, but it also has a very strong coloration to it. So we're going to set that to like a cyan, ocean, turquoise, whatever you want to call that. Your third coloration is these parts under the scaffolding. I can't really show you above and below, but you'll see these little plates here. This also has some really good coloration, and it's actually a lot more than just the plates. Now the fourth one is the most disappointing. This is going to be all of this superstructure up top. I did not like the color changing here because it's very minimal. You still maintain a huge portion of the white coloration that it originally had, with just a tint of another color. So that's kind of like the worst part here. As for the lighting, there's not a whole lot of lighting on this ship, but let me see if I can pull some of that lighting to the forefront, so we have a reference. So you can see some of these like little red areas here, along here, down. If I'm changing it, you're looking for the most noticeable point is like this area here, where some lights are strewn through. But you can kind of see these color changes here You can also see it in this area down here, over here. So let's go through those again. You can kind of see it. On the Valraven, it is not an easy coloration to come across. Let's have a look at the statistics. So you've got the option of the Wings of Abundance activation. You have cannon damage on the Valraven and shield percent. Personally for me, I would go with the activation and the damage. But if you have a passive ship, you might want to go Wings of Abundance and shield percent or armor percent, whatever it is you do. Uh, Passive fits are usually a shield fit, so you would choose shield percent to get a better recharge time. Alright, so your first upgrade is going to have shield percent, warp speed, or scan res. The two good ones here are going to be shield percent or scan res. If you are a PvP player in a Marzio or any of the Angel Cartel ships, you're going to want warp speed. Your first upgrade is going to be a percentage damage type. So in this case, on a cannon ship, you would be wanting the explosive damage. Third upgrade here. This is an interesting one. I personally prefer the capacitor warfare resistance. However, the electronic warfare resistance and the warp stability are also really good. On a capital ship, the capacitor warfare resistance is going to be a huge deal if you ever get stuck in like a long, drawn out PvP scenario. And this warp stability, it's just not gonna save you. More often than not, if you're getting scrammed or pointed at long range, you're going to be hit between 3 and 7 points of warp scram or warp disruption. So this could sometimes save you, but more often than not, it's not going to be useful to you. It will help you, however, to escape from, um, like NPC rats, because they usually don't have a whole lot of scram or warp disruption. Alright, so we did that, we did that. Let's see the next one here. Your next one here is another, um, it's going to be another damage type increase. However, this one is autocannon or strike cannon, whereas the previous one, yeah, the previous one was also autocannon or strike cannon. This one in particular is a 16% increase, which is really nice. When you pair the explosive damage with something like Armor Melter, where it's a reduction to explosive resistance, you could really have a quite deadly bit. In terms of Hyperion Bomber or Annihilator, I'm gonna say Hyperion Bomber. The only reason I say that is because the Citadel module will allow you to run Dormant Realms pretty easily, um, and will also give you better tracking and range. So, Hyperion Bomber is going to be a better PvE ship as well as a better PvP ship for the extra healing. Right, your second to last upgrade here. This one is unique to Wings of Abundance. The reason they're calling Wings of Abundance is for this right here. You have up to a 13% module drop rate when you kill something. Um, you have up to a 13.5% cargo hold item drop rate on destroying something, or you have a 13% shipwreck drop rate on destroying something. If you are a PvP player, the things you might want most would be the module drop rate or the shipwreck drop rate. Very rarely do cargo hold items um, end up being worth more than what is fitted to the ship. And the same kind of goes for PvE. You really should have in PvE, in faction anomalies, both of the module drop rate and the shipwreck drop rate are going to be incredible. However, when you're doing capital anomalies, you're really going to want that shipwreck drop rate so you can get a lot more wrecks, like capital carrier wrecks, capital dreadnought wrecks, in order to build things like supers, dreadnoughts, carriers. They need a lot of these wrecks. So that's something you should consider. When you're in like faction stuff, either one of these does really well. But if you're really wanting to farm like faction modules, definitely go with the module drop rate. In normal anomalies, I'm not sure what's gonna be better here. Because both of them are pretty terrible in terms of like loot. But in nullsec, if you go with the module drop rate, um, you could end up seeing a huge increase in the amount of material that you are reprocessing, and getting a lot more minerals out of that. And your combat pilots really start to become like secondary industrialists as long as they are continually grabbing a lot of modules to reprocess. So that is also something to consider on this nanocore. It really depends what your goal is for where you're at. High sec, these two matter like not at all. The only one that might matter in high sec is the module drop rate. I'm not sure if this applies to the junior overseers supplies, or if that's going to count under cargo hold. I have no way of testing it, but one of these two should count toward those overseers effects. Alright, and the last one here is a 19% damage type increase as well. So, like I said, autocannon explosive damage is going to be huge. Especially when you have, like, armor melter, which would reduce the explosive resistance of your target. Alright, now that we have looked at that, let's go ahead and jump outside of our location here. This nanocore does currently have AI now. Don't mind my fit. I'm only doing this in order to show off these modules and how they are affected by the activation.
Undocking.
Alright, we are here out in space. Let's go ahead and have a look at what this activatable mode actually does here. We are going to get a 25% electronic warfare module strength. This applies to things like the guidance disruptors, um, pretty much any kind of disruptor. It does not seem to apply to target painters, weirdly enough. So we'll get an increase of 25% capacitor warfare strength. We're going to get a reduction by 50% on capacitor warfare reactivation delay. That means your activation time on things like Nosferatus and neutralizers. You have a 35% interception module effective range. That'll be your scrams and disruptors. Also your webifiers and grapplers as well. You'll get a 100% self-sensor strength. That means you can lock things faster. You will have a 25% faster recharge time, which means your capacitor recharge will be much better. And then you will have this last one is kind of a weird one, but it is a 50% increase to the drone flight speed. This does also apply to fighters, which I have no way of showing. Alright, so let's go ahead real quick, look at some basic statistics here. We've got a minute 35 seconds capacitor duration. We have a scan resolution of 115 over 3000. 39 points of radar strength. Not really sure how all that's going to be affected, but we'll have a look. I do know that it does not affect the targeting signature radius. Alright, let's go ahead. I'll just act... I don't have siege, but it's fine. Before I keep going here, let me check local. Okay. Once again, we're going to activate our thing here. Let me get all of these modules on the first page. Okay. So all the modules are on the first page. We're just going to go straight down the list. Alright, when I activate this, this has a really long activation. It's like 2 minutes or something like that. It feels really long. Right, so your Warp Disruptor now has a range of 37.12. Your Warp Scram is going to have an 18.56. Your Imperial Navy Capital Energy Neutralizer is going to have an activation time of 18 seconds, 44 kilometer optimal range, and 22.5 accuracy falloff. Your Nosferatu is going to have a 10-second activation time for the duration of this, with a 44 and 22 as well. We're now halfway through our activation cycle. Your Grappler will now go out to 47.2 kilometers, It looks to be the same sort of stats down here, but it does now have a 5-second activation time. I'm not sure if that's the same as base. I believe it's 10 seconds on the base, but I will check in a moment. Okay, your last thing here is a webifier. You now have a 5-second activation time as well, and an 18 kilometer range. As soon as this runs out, we'll run back through all these. And I do believe it was like a minute and a half or 2 minutes of activation time. When it finishes its cycle, you will have 600 seconds of downtime. That is 10 minutes of downtime. So our disruptors are down to 27.5. Our scram is down to 13.75. Remember, it was up at 18. Our neutralizers are up to 36 seconds of activation time with 44 and 22, so no effect on the optimal and fall off, but the activation time was half. Then you have 20 seconds on the Nosferatu, same range. With the activation, we were at 10 seconds. Okay, we do have the same activation on the grappler, but we're down to 35 kilometers instead of 40 whatever it was. And then we also have 13.6 kilometers on the stasis wildfire that was up at 18. Overall, I do think that this is a fairly decent nanocore. I wouldn't call it, like, the best in any regard. For PvE, I would find the Star Melody or Starbreak to be much better. In PvP, you're gonna find that Starbreak is going to be way better for PvP. Star Melody is useful in comparison to this as well, because it will stop people from being able to warp away as long as they are within the bubble, so you don't have that efficiency, but while that's active, you're going to have a lot better range in trying to slow somebody down with scrams or disruptors, or if you just need to use it for a while on, like, double Nosferatu, you could really pump your capacitor pretty hard. Something else about this Nanocore, if you're in a PvP situation and you have, like, a single neutralizer, this will essentially act as double neutralizers while this effect is active, because it halves your activation time. So, when you're running this, consider running only one neutralizer and one Nosferatu, unless you're something like one of the faction battleships where you have, like, the neutralizer increase effect and range, such as, like, on the Balgorn. On the Balgorn, you might run, like, 2 or 3 neutralizers, activate that mode, and now you have the equivalent of, like, 6 neutralizers. Be aware that it will absolutely cripple your capacitor if you do that. So consider running some extra Nosferatus on top of that to try to offset that extra cost. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining me today on this brief overview of the Wings of Abundance Nanocore. Let me know what you think about it. I think it's got a pretty cool look. I think it's pretty useful. Um, Otherwise, have a good day and be safe. I will see you later.